We're just waiting for one more committee member who's caught up in office traffic, and we'll start shortly. The Agriculture Committee will come to order. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Chair Neyer.
Here.
Representative Warts. Here. Leitner. Alexander.
Here.
Fox.
Present.
Coons. Pavlo.
Here.
Pies. Eichendorf. Here. Rankins. Here. Skaggs.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have the forum.
Thank you. Representative Alexander moves to adopt the minutes from the previous meeting. Hearing no objections, meeting minutes are adopted. Next on the agenda, we'll take testimony on House Bills 4257 and 4265. Rep. Andrews, if you'd like to come forward, please.
Thank you, Chair and Vice Chairs of the committee. House Bill 4265, my bill in the package, and both bills are reintroductions of bills that myself and former Representative Filler worked on during the last term to try to address some issues around the regulatory climate for methane digesters in the state of Michigan. As I'm sure you're aware from testimony last week, this is an industry that Michigan really stands to benefit from if only we could get our regulatory state in order to give the industry some certainty around how they would be operating and regulated and what standards they would be held to. This has currently been less than clear over the last decade or more, with lots of changes on policy within Eagle that have affected the industry. We all, I'm sure, remember the Fremont digester issue that caused that digester and company to leave the state of Michigan entirely. And so I want to give sort of a brief summary of what the bills attempt to do, and then hopefully leave some time for some questions if we're able. So what we're trying to do here is several things, but first doing some reclassification to make sure that digesters are, the digestate output is being correctly classified and not treated as wastewater, which is the issue that we run into recently. And so the digestate would be regulated under material management instead of under water provisions at Eagle. And as long as it's being applied using generally accepted agriculture practices, the GAMS regulations, would be free from being treated as a waste byproduct because it would be being used as a fertilizer. We've also tried to create some regulatory relief in here, so clarifying that owners and operators of the digesters are not going to be required to prove that they have a remediation eligible hazard site. That's a pretty huge burden when placed upon them. The digestate can also be managed on site without disposal if it's being used agriculturally. So extending an exemption previously given to composting facilities to digesters as well. We're also, on the permitting side of things, looking to remove requirements for general permits and instead creating a sort of general $750 fee, simplifying that process, establishing clear operating and reporting requirements, including contingency planning and annual reports, so that, will be clear guidelines for what has to be reported. And then I think this is important and maybe something we should do in other places too, but require Eagle to approve or deny permits within 180 days. If the 180-day timeline passes, then the permit would just be automatically approved, with the hope that this will make it easier for simple permits to get through the process faster, and the more complex ones will get the focus that they need. For the feedstock and use requirements, we've limited digester feedstock to list organic materials, so manure, crop waste, food waste, no plastics, no cardboards, that kind of stuff. Not that most people want those in their digester anyway, but it's a concern that comes up. So organic materials, land application must follow the generally accepted agriculture management practices, so cannot violate environmental standards, which is another concern that comes up. So we're holding closely to those. And then, of course, they must avoid nuisances and general hazards to the best of their ability, again, within the guidelines of general agricultural practices. There is a testing and training requirement, so registered digesters must conduct quarterly testing and maintain records for 5 years. Again, if there's any environmental concerns, that should hopefully be addressed, more easily addressed. And then operators must complete approved training programs within a year of opening, so holding everybody to good standards across the board. And then some exemptions and certifications that we built in, the digesters meeting certain criteria. For instance, if they're accepting less than 20% of off-site feedstock connected to small farms, they'd be exempt from some additional permitting. Just by way of trying to encourage the digesters to be multi-site, and it benefits small farms too, right? I mean, you put a digester on a large farm, of course, that's going to work, but we want to also encourage some of our smaller farms to make use of these as well. And then trying to resolve conflicts between state and federal environmental protections is part of this as well, just again to create some clarity and consistency in the regulation. There's also a requirement for tracking of custody of the feedstocks and the outputs, so that there's a clear record of where things are coming from, what happens with the digestate, who's taking it where it's being applied. Again, just making it very easy to track what's going on the ground, and if there's any concerns, it'll be very easy to trace and track. So I think our hope, I think, is that this will create a clean and clear process so that these digester companies that want to come to Michigan and make use of our very large ag sector have a clear set of guidelines, easy to understand, know what they have to do, and we've got enforcement if people are breaking rules, and hopefully we can keep bad actors in line that way. But a huge opportunity for us in the state, really. I mean, just speaking to individuals from this industry over the last couple of years, Michigan could potentially be like #1 in the country for this industry if we could get our permitting in line. And good for a great number of reasons, right? I mean, fruit and manure are going to decompose. That's what they do. So being able to put that waste into a better form, trap the gas, turn the byproduct into useful fertilizer. It's environmentally positive. It's climate positive. It's good economics for farms. So it's win, 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 win. With that, if there's any questions.
Not seeing any. Alexander, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your testimony and whatnot. You did mention that gives DEQ, or Eagle, a 180-day window for approval. This is Michigan, and my beans grow for 65 days, my corn grows for 102. That seems to be pretty lucrative. I mean, it's really lenient. Why was 180 days chosen?
I mean, what we were trying to do was find a window that would both, give Eagle the time they needed to review permits that were coming in for these, but also not run into the problem we've run into over the last few years where permitting timetables just keep getting kicked back. And I think, not to keep using the Fremont example, but I mean, they were going through a permitting process for years.
Yeah.
And so it's like at some point, I mean, if there's a problem, then let's solve it. And if there is no problem, then approve the permit, And so I think the idea was we put that 180-day window on that should hopefully give enough time if there is a problem for it to get addressed. But if there isn't a problem, it's approved.
Yeah. Well, and it just seems you'd have to make a mental note to apply for application before you harvest this year's crop so you can get for next spring.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Warts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question kind of is similar to Representative Alexander's. I mean, 180 days is 6 months. That is oftentimes prohibitive in furthering any economic growth because you're at a standstill. Could we do 90 days? And my second question to that is, if it's a manpower issue, then how many people are employed at Eagle on permitting, and are they showing up and coming to work and working 5 days a week on the issue?
Can't speak to the agency. I think that's a worthy question to run by Eagle. Whether it's manpower or location, that sort of thing. I mean, I think the 180-day number is flexible. I mean that's certainly not a hard number that we arrived at. But the idea was that you want to give the time for approval when there is complications. I mean, I don't think anybody wants an environmental hazard because there wasn't enough time to review the permit. But we also don't want permits getting dragged out into in perpetuity and having all of that uncertainty that comes with not having a firm deadline. So again, I don't know that 180 days is some kind of like scientific number that we arrived at. More just trying to find a reasonable duration to give for reviewing the permits, but not so long that nobody knows when they're going to get approved, if that makes sense. But I, of course, like I said, I think it's a worthy discussion about what what manpower is there. Do they need more? Could it be more efficiently allocated? All great questions.
Thank you. And I mean, 180 days certainly better than I know farmers that have waited years to get responses from Eagle and then been fined because supposedly they didn't report in a short time. So I think it's nice that there's an amount in there. I just think we need to be reasonable and productive and allow for growth.
Of course.
Thank you.
Representative Fox.
Yep, thank you very much. Thank you, Rep. Andrews. Just a question, in your opinion, could we avoid a whole lot of these issues and questions, and I will call it kicking the permit can down the road, if we just put these digesters back under MDARD where they were originally? Thank you.
I don't think that's unreasonable at all. I mean, it is an agricultural use, so it does, in my mind, probably make more sense being under MDARD. I don't know what the decision-making process is for how all that got moved around, but it does seem to me that an agricultural use would be better served in the agricultural division. But maybe a good question to ask MDARD and Eagle.
Last question, Representative Skaggs.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for coming in, Rep. Andrews. Been a big fan of biodigesters in Grand Rapids and in Kent County. Just by way of some factual basis on things, how many biodigesters have been permitted in Michigan?
I don't have that number on hand. We do have several operating in the state right now, though. Several more that we could have operating if we had a better permitting framework. Happy to try to get you an exact number on that, though, if you're interested.
Yeah, so I'd be interested in number of permits that have been approved, number of applications, and then some sense of, and I'll ask the department of this as well, but what is the sort of average time on approval? So just trying to get a sense of, is Fremont a one-off, or is it, part of a more systemic problem?
I will say that the Fremont situation was particularly complicated and not necessarily what every digester is going through, but many of them have gone through some version of the challenges that Fremont kind of encountered in aggregate, whether it was like long timelines, changing classifications, and talking to companies that have their eyes on Michigan. Some of them have been in approval spirals for 2 years or more, and so like I said, I think Fremont is one of those like perfect storms of everything that could go wrong kind of went wrong on that one. But it's sort of it's like symptoms of a wider, more kind of endemic problem that we've got, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Thanks, Rep. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Representative Andrews.
Thank you, Chair.
With that, I'd like to ask Mike from the Michigan Chamber to come forward. Begin when you're ready.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the committee's time today. I'm Michael Limo. I'm Senior Director of Legislative and External Affairs for the Michigan Chamber. Previous to working for the Michigan Chamber, I ran another trade association called Clean Fuels Michigan, where we looked at alternative fuel supplies for the transportation industry. After that, worked for the Renewable Natural Gas Coalition, doing kind of multi-state lobbying, and then joining the Michigan Chamber. So this is something that I've personally been involved in for a number of years, and of course fits right within the Michigan Chamber's mission to support an affordable and diversified energy generation system and grid. And I think Representative Andrews said it very well. This is a triple win for Michigan. You're taking what is essentially a waste stream and using technology and innovation to produce a renewable energy source. This is something that supports the state's renewable portfolio standard. This is something that the state actually studied in 2022. The MPSC put out a capacity study on what the state could do in supporting renewable natural gas generation. At that time, we were kind of in flux with how the technology was being utilized and how the federal government was regulating it. We started using renewable natural gas primarily as an on-site generation source, producing electricity for on-site operations. And now what we, by and large, do is, take that energy supply, put it into our pipeline system, and use it to displace traditional natural gas, which helps decarbonize that grid system. But at the same time, as you all know, provides a revenue stream for, our farmers. It provides an added revenue stream for landfill operations, wastewater treatment plants, which supports our communities. So this is something that, we definitely think we should do more of. I think that's by and large the question before this committee is, it's a policy question of saying, do we want in kind of a non-monetary way to incentivize renewable natural gas production in this state, and given the opportunities to leverage our robust agricultural sector, and again other areas where this would just be a waste stream, looking at landfill and wastewater treatment plants as being the other two major contributors to methane emissions. This is a way to actually take that and monetize it. So I think, I think this is something that we continue to work with Eagle on. We've run into challenges in the past on this issue. I know Fremont has talked about a lot, but we have a number of other, companies in this space that have they've had to figure it out one way or another. I think there's a little bit of a different story with every one of these operations that we've seen. none of them have felt that it's easy. And so I think that, this is an opportunity to create more consistency around the permitting process for this, so that companies that want to invest in this space can do so. It's also, an important way to help support our, food processor companies as well. So we have a number of folks and members in that space that, again, want to do something better with their waste streams than just landfilling them. And so this is an opportunity to do that. So we're very supportive of these bills moving forward. We're looking forward to it getting through the House committee and chamber, and then working with the Senate and Eagle to help get this done. I think we're here to work and negotiate with the department to try to find a landing spot if that's possible, because I think we really we want to see a better process for this so that our companies have greater consistency. So I'll leave it at that and take any questions.
In comparison to other states and your peers there, is this legislation that we're working on here similar to the framework that other states go through? Is it is there any standouts that help or that gets us through, or are other states different in ways that are significant?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that this does, without knowing exactly how this particular permitting process goes in other states. We know that states like Ohio have done a lot to reform their environmental permitting process with great success. And so we have a number of companies that have said, the reforms that have taken place in, some, states like Ohio, even Minnesota, although Minnesota has done things to kind of take themselves back from that, those affect our investment decisions, right? So.
Not seeing any other questions. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you so much.
With that, with Christy from the Sierra Club, Megan from Michigan Environmental Council, and Nicole from Clean Water, please come forward.
Thank you so much, Chairman. We're going to have Nicole come up afterwards, just so we don't have to shuffle the seats. So really appreciate the committee's time today. Thanks for the opportunity to testify. We know it's at the chair's discretion, and we really appreciate it. On behalf of Sierra Club's thousands of members and supporters here in Michigan, I am here to share our serious concerns with House Bills 4257 and 4265. According to comprehensive legal memos drafted by the Environmental Law and Policy Center, if passed, these bills would put Michigan in violation of our own existing state laws, federal laws, and a recent Michigan Supreme Court decision that affirmed the authority and prerogative of the state of Michigan to regulate and protect the waters of our state. Anaerobic digestion is shorthand for the decomposition of organic matter in an oxygen-free environment. At a small or a large scale, the method and context for how this decomposition happens determines if a digester is increasing greenhouse gas emissions or capturing them, as you've heard the industry claim. Capturing methane can only be considered green if its production is otherwise inevitable. In the case of RNG production using anaerobic digestion on an industrial scale, which is what we're talking about here, decades of data now prove that the dairy industry is increasing herd sizes to increase methane production, not to produce more food. Financially backed by DTE consumers and Chevron in particular here in Michigan, BP and Shell in other states, dairy farmers are now financially incentivized to expand their herds to produce methane gas for the profits of fossil fuel companies. An industry cannot claim it is green because it is burning methane produced by agricultural operations instead of methane produced by fracking. Methane gas is methane gas, and burning methane drives climate change. Furthermore, groundbreaking 2023 research from engineers at Princeton University measured fugitive emissions from wastewater treatment plants equipped with digesters, as well as wastewater treatment plants that did not have digesters. And their data shows that some of the largest fugitive methane plumes were from wastewater treatment plants with digesters. This is because methane pipelines and digesters leak. And if we ramp up the amount of methane produced in them, it means we ramp up the amount of methane that leaks out. I also want to address the claims that Michigan should do less to protect water quality because other states are also doing a bad job. Anything happening in other states that is increasing water pollution into the Great Lakes is a reason for us to decrease it here. We must not aspire to match bad practices in other states that are polluting our Great Lakes. Finally, the context in which this is happening is highly relevant. A significant factor in the increasing severity and duration of acutely toxic, harmful algal blooms is harmful runoff from agriculture. Given the sweeping and devastating cuts to the federal monitoring conducted by NOAA at the University of Michigan, the state of Michigan must be doing everything that we can to minimize the sources of pollution, not dramatically increase our state sources of pollution that will drive the severity and duration of, again, acutely toxic, harmful algal blooms. This is a recipe for creating a rapidly escalating public health and tourism disaster for the state of Michigan. So, the false claims of climate mitigation, the illegality of this bill language, the inappropriate comparisons to bad water quality protection in other states, the escalating pressures on our fragile Great Lakes system, combined with the dereliction of duty of our federal water quality monitoring, all indicate that we should decrease the amount of water pollution flowing into our Great Lakes, not create a pathway for increasing it, which is what these bills do. We encourage you to vote no, and I will turn it over to my colleague, Megan.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I don't see the vice chairs. I'm Megan Tinsley, Water Policy Director for the Michigan Environmental Council, testifying in opposition to House Bills 4257 and 4265. We submitted the ELPC memo to you that Christy mentioned, which outlines what the bills do and how they violate Michigan law. But to provide brief testimony, I will focus on a question that's been asked of several presenters last week and today, whether the regulations at hand belong with EGLE or MDARD. This would imply that the bills simply propose a regulatory shift. However, if enacted, they would deregulate hazardous waste streams by not requiring a water quality permit through EGLE if digestate is managed in compliance with the Generally Accepted Agricultural Management Practices, or GAMPs. The GAMPs are guidelines for farm management intended to provide protection from nuisance complaints for the farms that follow them. They were developed and adopted by the Michigan Commission of Agriculture and Rural Development following the enactment of the Michigan Right to Farm Act. The exhibits in the memo show that both the EPA and EGLE have previously concluded that compliance with GAMPs do not substitute for permits as required by the Clean Water Act. Quotes pulled from the memo include, GAMPs are recommendations only. They are broad statements of intent with no specific requirements that could be used to measure conformance. They're voluntary approaches to pollution prevention to gain right to farm protection from nuisance claims. These statements resonate with me as I serve on 2 GAMPs committees, and I know that the recommendations in them often use language such as should. Although voluntary practices, the environmental community has long sought to make the GAMPs as protective as possible. Along with allies and partners, the Environmental Council submitted comments to MDARD in 2023, suggesting the GAMPs specifically consider guidance related to anaerobic digesters, given the expected increase in facilities from federal cost-share funds. Currently, the GAMP most applicable to land application, the nutrient utilization GAMP, does not specifically deal with digestate from mixed feedstocks that provides the land application of materials such as food processing and meat packing waste. It says actually that those are regulated by EGLE. So the legislation before us exempts digesters from water quality permits if the operators comply with a set of recommendations that in turn state that an EGLE permit is needed. True recommendations for this digestate do not even exist. This, again, is deregulation of waste that can contain pharmaceuticals, PFAS, heavy metals, and pathogens such as E. coli. Slaughterhouse waste, for example, does not just contain bodily fluids, but also industrial cleaning agents. At the end of the day, even if the GAMPs incorporated some specific guidance for digestate, they are still a set of non-binding recommendations and are absolutely not a substitute for a permit designed to protect water resources. Finally, the potential for job creation with digester build-out was mentioned last week. It's worth noting then that the Michigan outdoor recreation economy supports 118,000 jobs. The state is billed as pure Michigan, yet 9,000 miles of streams and rivers are above water quality standards for total body contact levels for E. coli. This is a threat to public health. Someone mentioned swimming last week. I hope they check the E. coli maps before they dip in. When it comes to what's accurately defined as hazardous waste that these digester facilities included in this legislation can produce, protecting the waters of the state cannot be voluntary. Michigan has over 1.2 million private household drinking water wells. Treating hazardous waste as a solid product and relying on a set of voluntary standards that don't actually even exist for this cocktail of ingredients is a true recipe for disaster and jeopardizes Michigan's water resources that make our state unique. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you and good morning, representatives. Today I'm speaking on behalf of Clean Water Action and our 130,000 members throughout Michigan. For additional context, let's uplift a few frugal, non-polluting, accessible solutions to waste management and methane emissions. These include waste reduction of food in particular, locally scaled composting, and the deconsolidation of agriculture to move away from methane-emitting manure lagoons at CAFOs and back towards family farm-friendly, humane animal husbandry that uses responsible grazing methods instead of mass consigning sentient animals to a debt-plagued machine. Such solutions could go a long way in stopping and even reversing harmful algal blooms, the pollution of groundwater that spoils well water, and the suite of health problems that arise with industrial methods of agriculture saturated by chemical inputs and excessive runoff. In comparison, anaerobic digesters and co-digesters are expensive, discourage waste reduction, monetize pollution, and aim to further lock in combustible fuels. House Bills 4257 and 4265 offer a gift of deregulation to the massive corporate interests looking to profit from pushing anaerobic digesters onto rural Midwestern communities. The lucrative racket of carbon-neutral credits means the oil and gas behemoths investing in building out a new industry of biogas digesters can keep their old pollution going by adding this new industrial holding to somehow magically offset ongoing fossil fuel emissions. Unsustainably negative water and health impacts associated with CAFOs are perversely incentivized to go even bigger and dirtier in order to reap even more carbon credits, as seen by California's brown rush of digesters harming people's health, quality of life, and water supply. Yet, instead of demanding that digesters be built on more strictly regulated industrial-scale waste management areas such as landfills, these bills welcome further industrialization of agricultural areas. What is in the digestate byproduct to be spread on agricultural fields? How can surrounding rural communities and everyone downstream and upwind be assured it is safe? Never mind such tests, just deregulate it is the response being considered for legislation today. What effect would PFAS, microplastics, heavy metals, and even more water-soluble concentrations of nitrates, ammonium, and phosphate have on the soil and crops and water table? Never mind that. Just deregulate the digestate byproduct and sludge it on the fields to seep into the water and carry on the breeze. Why not implement the strict standards needed to protect water quality? Because private corporations say it is just too expensive to prove that the product they are putting onto the soil and into water basins is safe. For all the talk I've heard about local control over land use decisions when it comes to large solar arrays and battery plants, it's rather shocking that the bottom line of massive corporate investors like Vanguard and BlackRock is seemingly prioritized above the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the places we call home. Anaerobic digesters are not a win-win for local communities denied the chance to learn all the facts and have a say on whether or not they are willing to accept yet another industrial-scale project imprinting and imposing itself onto the rural landscape, while literally spreading waste of obfuscated composition onto the surrounding lands. Digestate waste that many on this committee and in the legislature as a whole are ready to derate, even prior to hearing public testimony raising critical real-world concerns. Government is supposed to rein in corporations, not have profit-motivated industries greenlight legislation. Your job is to protect public interests like clean tap water, children's health, and homelands we can recognize. I don't think Michiganders are particularly interested in what's easier and cheaper for corporations willing to use communities as dumping grounds and sacrifice zones for under-regulated industrial waste. Vote no on House Bills 4257 and 4265. There are far more responsible solutions to waste management if the measure is people over profit and if we commit to being careful custodians of our irreplaceable shared waters. Miigwech.
Thank you. Not seeing any questions. We'll move on. Again, thank you for your time. This time, Dr. Smith and Dr. Laeo, sorry if I butchered your name, from MSU.
Well, thank you, Chairman Neyer and members of the committee. We really appreciate the opportunity to testify today. It's a great example of the important role that the state of Michigan's land-grant university can provide to state government and to every Michigander. My name is George Smith, and I have the pleasure of serving as the director of Michigan State University Ag Bio Research. In that role, I lead the research enterprise for the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources and the bulk of the entire university in the areas of agriculture and food systems and the environment. So in that role, our scientists are well positioned to make a contribution to resolving the issues that are being discussed today. Our scientists do research and conduct data that can inform policy. Our scientists help develop technologies that solve the inherent issues or questions underlining policy debates. And our scientists can provide technical expertise on published literature and other issues to help you, state government, make informed decisions. What we do not do is provide opinions on the merit or lack thereof of policy. And so we're very pleased to have the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm going to provide a little bit of background information on a transformational investment that's been made by the state of Michigan that's directly relevant to the subject today. And then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague here, Dr. Wei Lau, who is one of the world's leading experts on anaerobic digestion technology. So the very issues that are being discussed here today were foundational to the investment of the state of Michigan in new dairy facilities at Michigan State University that will not only help us create new technologies, programs that will help our dairy farmers be profitable into the future, train the workforce of the future, but also help create what we refer to as a circular agricultural economy, where our farmers where new sources of revenue are identified for our farmers that will help small and medium-sized, along with large-sized farms, stay in business, and also increase environmental sustainability. So this landmark investment by the state of Michigan was founded in addressing some of the issues that were being addressed today, and a big part of the puzzle and big part of what we hope to deliver in the future. And you hear more from Dr. Liao about what we're doing and what our plans are. whether we're talking about increasing the efficiency of biogas production, whether we're talking about water reclamation, or whether we're talking about removing nutrients from digesters, both in applications with animal waste and food waste. So this investment is positioning us to play a bigger, more important role in the future. But beside that, we have been involved in anaerobic digestion research for quite some time. So you've already heard about how the anaerobic digestion process works, so we will kind of skip over that part. And what I want to do is provide a little bit of history of our presence in this area and the work we've done before turning the presentation over to Dr. Liao, who is the director of the MSU Anaerobic Digestion Research and Education Center. It was established in 2008, and we haven't had a digester in operation since 2013. We were the first university in the entire country to invest in this technology. We have over 10 years of data that's relevant to some of the issues being addressed today. And we are positioned to do even more in the future to not only improve this technology, but solve some of the issues that are fundamental to the conversations today. So with that, again, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Dr. Liao, who will provide the next part of the testimony.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Vice Chair. I just want to be brief and kind of show you some facts and numbers we generated in the past 10, 20 years research. Again, MSU Anaerobic Digestion Research Education Center is a research the branch actually serve for state Michigan and international. So we have projects going with USDA, EPA, Department of Energy, Department of Defense. So we serve for state Michigan and international. Every year we run more than 200 service contracts around the country, and from California, from west to east coast. And we do developing environmental solutions for the rural communities, for industry, and for some other the research entity. So very quick, just again, I just want to show you facts and numbers, and probably the representatives, committee members already know those numbers. If look at those tables, you can see this the total nitrogen phosphorus. We're focusing on digestates being used by the growers in the state of Michigan. And if you look at the second table, it's just about nitrogen phosphorus from manure, and third table is from food waste. So you can see the ratio, roughly around 34% of nitrogen growers in Michigan use put on our soil as a form of the animal waste, manures, and less than 2% actually coming from food waste, processing waste. So that's kind of ratio we have. Similar thing with the phosphorus, a little bit more phosphorus coming from the manure. That's the first, the set of data we got, from the agricultural operation in the state of Michigan. And just focus on this, nutrient piece. And this committee probably already heard a lot of, the methane, biogas. I'm going to focus on a little bit again on this, nitrogen phosphorus. This is what we're doing, ADRAC. We gather research grants from state, from federal governments. Really, as I mentioned, as a lot of people mentioned, anaerobic digestion is a carbon process at this moment. So what we are doing at MSU, leading the national effort, we're leading institute on that part, is really taking anaerobic digestion as a carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, the sequestration process. So we recycle phosphorus, nitrogen. Everybody knows phosphorus is very precious resources. And on the one side is the pollutant content if we discharge too much in the water. On the other side, we are running out of phosphorus for the agriculture, for other things. So you can see some of the numbers there. I'm not going to go through the numbers, but just really want to show you the numbers for the state of Michigan. And next part, I think we just lay out the foundation. We can answer the questions, and we do research on the odor control on the campus. And for our operation on Southern campus, and not only just digest operation, farm operations, from time to time, campus complaints or what kind of this smell, something like that. You can see this is numbers we got. 90% of, in particular for the animal waste, digester can reduce 90% the odor. This is odor values, this kind of scientific numbers there. And then probably, some people ask, is 2,000 OU is low enough? Not. Again, these numbers are, the digestate in the tank after, digestion process. It depends on land application. how could it put on land, and in terms of the use scale of the land and the mass. So then there's a different scale, different the things we can talk about the details, and also related with some other factors. But you can see digestion process can remove 90 to 99% of odor, and of course there's some other compounds related with odor. I put the detail in there, and this is information for the committee. And then I had a lot of questions, not only just from the state, from entire nations, to ask the MSU about this digestate, the land application. I just want to give you the facts. That's MSU Southern Campus land. That the blue dot is our digester operation. We generate roughly 15,000 gallons of the digestate per day. And we do land application. Those yellow highlights the land. We have up to 1,000-acre lands. Used past 10 years for digestate application. This year we are right now around 250 acres are being applied by the digestate. And if you see those red dots, we have 15 wells on our southern campus. 4 of them exactly located on our land application. And then we pump 5 million gallons per day for the entire campus, 52,000 students, plus faculty and staff members. And we monitor, this is the EPA, actually public data. If you look at our water quality informations, we did not see the contamination in this well. Those wells are roughly around 300 feet to 500 feet deep on the ground. And we do follow, the EPA, follow state, the guidance on the land applications. During the growing season, you do, the accurate calculations regarding the crops we're using on those land, soybean, corn, and then we can do that land application. That's just kind of, some facts. And we do give the data for the different stakeholders and environment groups. They're interested in those, information. So I just want to stop here and lay out a little bit, the facts, and we are willing to answer questions.
Representative Skaggs.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for coming in and giving us your presentation today. Just 2 questions on page 3, so slide 5. You've got the current digesters, and then a red arrow, it says potential digesters. What does that mean? And why are we seeing a decline in landfill digesters and then this dramatic increase in manure digesters? Are you predicating this on this law passing? How are we getting to the potential digesters?
Those numbers from American Biogas Council, and there's 2 trends for the landfill biogas, because the landfill come and go. Landfill is like based on the acreage, right? So, and it's not the best. Let's put not that way. Landfill biogas production with the organic, with front end, or the separation of organic matters out of landfill as much as possible. Like my home, we do and that thing we're predicting going to drop. This is again potential, but on the other end, as mentioned, we are research arms for USDA, EPA, and the USDA, EPA's. I don't want to put that too long. Focus is for the rural community. And a lot of, particularly in the state of Michigan, a lot of small, medium farms, we are developing solutions, environmentally sound, economic, feasible solutions for them. And this is why we're kind of expecting this rural agriculture will use advanced anaerobic digestion, next generation anaerobic digestion, to address their waste issues, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus. Again, I mentioned these 3 components. And this is why we see the potential increase on the agriculture sector.
Okay, and then second question, if I may, Chair. So, much of this discussion is around the 2021 decision by Eagle to move regulation of anaerobic digesters from the Solid Waste Division to the Water Resources Division. Can you tell us about what happened and how the MSU digester navigated this change in regulatory approach?
What I can tell, we just keep monitoring the systems, and we kind of all the wastewater. We do work with the Eagle. We report or our, the practice there, like waste handling, and we do have permitting, air permitting, and they come to do the annual, the checkup. Yeah, that's kind of what we do for that.
So your biodigester is permitted under the Water Resources Division?
No, I think it's on the agriculture user approval, and on the agriculture sectors, not water. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Chair.
Representative Pavlo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious, are there any more contaminants like heavy metals and things like that that are increased by going through the digester than that existed before? Is that process somehow
MSU
created?
digestion, no. We do measure the metals. We don't see the increase on the metal levels in our digesters.
So whatever contaminants you have before are going to be the same ones after that come out of the digester?
It depends on what kind of contaminants. If look at we do a lot of intensive microbial study. If you look at a microbial side, pathogens, E. coli, coliform, 70 to 80% are being reduced by the anaerobic digestion. That's our data. So,
Okay.
And other like phosphorus and nitrogen will pass through. The form will be changed a little bit from like a protein or some urea in the the waste streams into the ammonia and some other compounds, phosphate, and in the digestate. And the other than that, it depends on what kind of contaminant talk about. There are different chemistry, different mechanisms happening in the digestive process. So.
All right, thank you very much.
Are the GAMPs set up just for practices? This going back to Dr. Smith there, or is this also set up to help protect the environment? That was a question that was brought up earlier, or suggested earlier, that GAMPs is merely just a practice to get out from a nuisance complaint.
And I have my opinions, but I can't speak on behalf of the university on that, because that's not what we do. So I believe the intent of the GAMPs and how they were established, and I believe the data supports the intent by which they were established. So,
Chairman, this is the data we provide, scientific data. And this odor unit is, a scientific number. You can see this for the digestates regarding the odor. So.
and the data that's been collected in terms of monitoring groundwater contamination and whatnot would suggest that our practices are not having a negative effect on the environment.
Thank you. Representative Ranigans.
Thanks. Thank you. So I guess I'm trying to keep in my mind that the English language is imprecise here. We say the word digester. It means a couple different things. There's like different kinds, right? Is the MSU research digester the same as like the Fremont digester? How are they different if they're not the same?
Our digesters, we have our digester we call cold digestion. We've put 50-60% manures into dairy manures, and a little bit, cattle or some other swine manures in there, and other 40 to 50 depends on times from the food waste. And campus food waste, actually, this is our research. This is why entire nation look at our operation. We put 18 different type of food wastes into our digest.
Does your campus food waste include like packaging?
No, depackaged. We receive the depackaging the waste, and we received recently a lot of the fats, oil, grease. That's a very challenge.
Okay.
To do that.
So I was reading a list of the stuff that's allowed in the proposed change to these laws that would allow a wide variety of things. It's mostly related to food, but there is still the allowance of packaging, which could include plastics and PFAS and some other chemicals in these digesters that we're actually talking about changing the regulation on. We're talking about that permitting process for these other digesters, not the same kind of digester you have.
First of all, let's see, our digesters, we handle all the depackaging materials. Package is not coming through our digester, which means that no plastics, no those kind of, the paper stuff in the feedstock we received put into our digesters. I think in state of Michigan, we have a couple of, depackaging facility to handle, particularly on West Coast side, to handle those packaging materials. And this is what I know at this moment, knowledge-wise.
And our vision for the future with the new facility is be able to take that research to the next level, where we are doing experiments where it's 100% food waste and different types of food waste, along with the mixed model that we have here, which will allow us to provide even more data in the future.
Which we do not have right now. We don't have that data, which is why you have a justification for trying to do that research.
We have data from our current digester, means cow digester.
Right, but which is different from the kind that we're talking about regulating.
We
today.
do have the data for the pure food waste digester, but this is for military research.
Okay, I would love to see the data you have for this.
We need to get approval from Army to release those information. Even though we are unclassified, but they still need approval process. So we do run for the contingency operations, the food wastes, and pure food waste, no any manures. And they talk about fully recycle their water on site. So that's another part of research. We do advanced research on those pieces.
Thank you, Chair.
Not seeing any other questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, committee.
With that, we're going to go virtual. Bill from Vanguard Renewables, if you'd care to jump online if he's available.
Good morning, Honorable Chair Neyer and the honorable members of this committee. My name is Charles Kepner, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs at Vanguard Renewables. I am here today to express my strong support for House Bills 4257 and 4265. Vanguard Renewables builds, owns, and operates anaerobic digesters on small multi-generational farms nationwide and would like to bring our technology to Michigan. Our company was founded with three primary goals: to produce renewable energy, help sustain our nation's farming industry for future generations, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We start our process by collecting organic waste from nearby food and beverage manufacturers, retailers, restaurants, distillers, breweries, and other food or beverage-based companies in Michigan. We do this to divert those materials from landfill and recycle them into something that's better for our planet. Once the food and beverage waste arrive at our facility, we have an advanced system that depackages and pre-processes that organic waste and removes all packaging. I understand that there were questions raised at last week's hearing concerning plastics, cardboard, and other packaging entering into the digestion process. We have many control levers to ensure that this does not occur, as these items are harmful to the digester and would decrease the quality of both the biogas and the digestate. The byproducts of the process include a nutrient-dense, low-carbon, and low-odor digestate that our farm partners can land apply to their fields instead of traditional fertilizers, closing that circular loop from farm to manufacturer and then back to the farm. I understand that there was a bit of discussion last week and today about digestate and how to ensure that it contains the nutrient farmers seek and not contaminants. Recall, one of Vanguard Renewables' primary goal is sustainability. Thus, Vanguard Renewables tests the digestate before it is land applied to ensure that it has the proper nutrient levels and would not be harmful to the land. The proposed legislation requires this type of rigorous testing and procedures, and we are in full support of these protocols. After the food and beverage, waste, and manure go through the anaerobic digester, pipeline quality renewable natural gas is produced and is injected into the existing pipeline infrastructure. The renewable natural gas is then used by companies looking to abate their thermal loads. Vanguard Renewables' business model helps to support our nation's farmers. And according to the United States Department of Agriculture, America has lost more than 140,000 family farms between 2017 and 2022. Many industry experts believe this number will only continue to increase. The American farmer, whether they're a small dairy or a crop farm, faces a myriad of issues, These include unpredictable weather patterns killing crops and their feed, unprecedented cost of fertilizers, bedding, farm equipment, and other ag-related needs that are not going away. They need our support. We can offer a solution to not just our farm partners, but to the greater communities in which we operate, simply by removing food waste from landfills and manure from our fields and harnessing that energy into a powerful, renewable power source. We help our farm partners by offering them a 20-year land lease agreement that provides them with a diversified income stream. And we save our farm partners money by providing the digestate as fertilizer. We create local jobs both during construction and upon completion. And by doing so, we are helping all of our partners in the shared goal of creating a circular economy. The circular economy concept comes from the argument that the earth is one entity. Economist Kenneth Boulding wrote in 1966 that Earth might be considered a single spaceship without unlimited resources for anything. Therefore, man must find himself in a cyclical ecological system. Many of us testifying today would agree that we only have one planet with a finite number of natural resources. As the climate changes, we are facing the most significant threat of our lifetime. There is not one silver bullet to stem the tide, but technological advancements have created many pathways to mitigate climate change, and one of those innovations are anaerobic digesters. Members of this honorable committee, these bills are a critical step forward in advancing renewable energy and ensuring a cleaner, healthier future for the residents of Michigan. As we face the increasing impacts of climate change, we must take decisive action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote sustainable practices. These bills encourages the development and utilization of renewable resources, which will help Michigan meet its environmental goals and promote economic growth and job creation. By supporting clean energy projects like anaerobic digesters, you can diversify Michigan's energy portfolio and reduce reliance on fossil fuels, all while creating a domestically produced energy source. Moreover, these bills fosters innovation, attracting investments in new industries that will lead to local job opportunities, particularly in rural communities where renewable projects can provide a much-needed economic boost. Supporting bills 4257 and 4265 aligns with Michigan's commitment to environmental stewardship and public health. Transitioning to renewable energy reduces air and water pollution, leading to healthier communities and a better quality of life for all Michiganders. In conclusion, I urge you to support these important bills as it represents a meaningful step towards sustainable, prosperous future for Michigan that benefits the environment, the economy, and future generations. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. I have just one question. Sure. Out of all the digesters that you're involved in or operating, what's the percentage of them that's multi-farmer involvement or owners, where you have more than just one farm working together?
We only work with one farm per site.
And so just one farm per site?
Correct.
Do you,
so we don't bring in manure from another farm.
Okay.
Unless it's a crop farm, and we just use manure at the beginning of the commissioning for inoculation.
All right. Okay, thank you. Not seeing any more questions. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Yep. Mike from Michigan Manufacturers Association, if you'd like to come up, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for your leadership on this important issue, and committee members, thank you for your time. I know there's been a lot of people, so I'll try and be brief and get you out of here as soon as possible. I'm Mike Witkowski. I am the Director of Environmental and Regulatory Policy for the Michigan Manufacturers Association. I'm really happy to be here today to discuss biodigesters and the critical role that they play in encouraging competitiveness in Michigan's manufacturing sector. The manufacturing industry here in Michigan employs over 600,000 Michiganders. That's over 14% of our total workforce, and these are high-quality jobs with an annual average pay of over $90,000. A growing number of these businesses are value-added processors and food manufacturers. This expanding segment of Michigan's economy merges our long-standing manufacturing base with our really diverse and rich agricultural heritage. as more and more food manufacturing operations come online and look to locate or expand here in Michigan, biodigesters and really importantly, our state's overall regulatory environment are key components in this decision-making. We are seeing every segment of the industry right now look at ways to decrease their input costs. This often includes improving operational efficiencies as well as reducing overall waste output. These practices, though, are still limited by our current technology and the available resources to any given business. This is why many operations are looking at biodigesters to create a beneficial use byproduct from something that would otherwise end up in our traditional waste streams. Let me get through this. This new revenue stream and reduced cost of doing business is critical to the ability of our small and medium-sized businesses to thrive and create more and better jobs here in the state of Michigan. We've seen numerous other states and countries especially successfully and safely embrace the use of biodigesters and the resulting digestate for years. Now, well beyond the economic benefits, biodigesters help reduce our overall methane emissions, provide additional opportunities for renewable energy generation, and I really want to emphasize this point. The process itself helps reduce E. coli from the digestate. Right, that depends on oxygen to thrive and grow. Biodigesters typically have a limited to no oxygen supply within them, and so the resulting digestate has effectively removed most of the E. coli from it. We already have some of the best components for the biodigestion process readily available with our livestock and dairy operations, and then the commingling of our food byproducts and waste, that's been shown to produce a higher quality methane and digestate at the end of the day. So we're really well situated here in Michigan to capitalize on all these things we have going well for us and really open up a lot of growth here. These biodigesters will continue to improve and be implemented either here or in other Midwestern states and across the world. So I think it's really important that we are leading on this. Some of our most important issues for our state's economic success are our regulatory environment and the opportunities for our small and medium-sized businesses to grow, as well as energy generation. And this legislation before you does all of those things. This is critically important for our state and for our businesses, and I thank you for your time and ask for your support. If there's any questions.
I just have one. Typically, what would, with these digesters, or without expanding digester opportunities, what would happen with food waste and other
It
products?
ends up in traditional landfill streams or has to be treated in another way. I mean, there's just really no alternative for it. And we're seeing the cost of transporting that waste and putting in traditional landfills is continuing to go up. A lot of that is just due to the sheer quality and effectiveness of our businesses. So you're paying to put that in the ground at some point.
Okay, not seeing any other questions. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming here today.
Thank you very much.
We're gonna try and close it out here with just a couple more. Cheryl from Concerned Citizens, would you like to speak?
Oh, okay. If I could have you amend that card of opposition to reflect that I'm representing officially Michiganders for a Just Farming System. My name is Cheryl Rubel, and I am a medical doctor and a public health, environmental, climate, and rural community advocate. My work as a volunteer leader for several years has focused on challenging the industry push for biogas production using anaerobic digester technology. Michigan House Bills 4257 and 4265 would significantly weaken Michigan's environmental protections by stripping away essential oversight of harmful waste streams processed through anaerobic digesters. These bills are written so broadly that they would apply to any facility with a digester regardless of location and feedstock type. And you've heard some concerns about feedstock type as well as location of the digester here. This includes those facilities that would handle manure from concentrated animal feeding operations, slaughterhouse waste, and industrial waste. If passed, these bills would turn Michigan's farmland and rural communities into, I'm sorry to say, dumping grounds for underregulated, toxic, potentially toxic industrial waste. You heard the MSU experts say that their digester does not take in depackaged food waste. And that's significant because depackaged food waste carries the risk of introducing microplastics into the digestate that is then spread on land. And anaerobic digestion does not mitigate microplastics pollution. So anyways, anaerobic digestion, it is not a waste management solution despite how it is marketed by corporate entities profiting from the commercial production of methane gas, also known as biogas. The industry likes to call it renewable natural gas because that sounds nicer, but it's the same thing as natural fossil gas. It's methane, it's a combustion fuel. And the real driver behind the push for digesters and deregulation of digesters and digestate, its byproduct, isn't public good, it's profit. These bills clear the way, clear the path by making it easier and cheaper to dispose of potentially toxic industrial waste streams. Digesters can be located on farms, at wastewater treatment plants, at landfills. They can be standalone facilities, like the Fremont Regional Digester, that are owned by municipalities or private companies. And I guess I'll add academic digesters to the mix here, because those are probably an exclusive category. They're very, very different from the real world digesters, extremely controlled situation, and we really can't expect that out in the real world. Digestate, this material left over after digestion, it's not a benign fertilizer. The word organic is really tossed about freely when discussing the feedstock, what goes into the digestate or the digester, and what comes out, this digestate. And I really want you to know that organic has nothing to do with organically certified. It doesn't mean chemical-free. It doesn't mean toxin-free. It simply means that the feedstock or the digestate contains carbon, okay? That's it. That word organic has a very positive connotation, and it's used very freely. The waste, the digestate, I should say, can contain microplastics, PFAS, heavy metals, pharmaceuticals, and endocrine disruptors, antibiotic resistance residues, none of which are neutralized by the digestion process. I'm a board-certified physician in infectious diseases, so I know a thing or two about E. coli. And yes, while it is true that anaerobic digestion can decrease pathogen counts, it is no substitute for the pathogen reduction processes that wastewater treatment plants, for example, must subject sewage sludge to before it can be spread as, Class A or Class B biosolids. And then there's this little problem, digestate doesn't go from the digester straight to the field. You can't do that. So it's got to go sit somewhere, be stored somewhere until it can be applied at agronomic rates. That's another issue, but we won't go into that now. Anyways, bacteria are pretty prolific creatures. So I haven't seen any studies about what's the bacterial, pathogen count of digestate that's been sitting there, for 10 days before it's land applied or however long it sits there. So I don't really buy that. These.
Can you, not to be rude, but please summarize.
Yeah. Okay. So I can do that. So I guess you get my point about. So I will close right here. Digestate is in line right behind PFAS-laced biosolids to become the next beneficial use product made from toxic industrial waste streams that causes far more harm for good. It's called waste to energy. I call it waste to wealth. Profit, not environmental stewardship, drives commercial biogas production. It costs 4 to 8 times more to produce than fossil gas. So where's the profit? The answer lies in lucrative federal and state carbon credits. And companies like Vanguard are receive the lion's shares of the profits. They say it's about helping farmers and revitalizing rural communities. It's really about strategic siting, hiding on farms with less oversight and shifting the burden of contaminated digestate disposal on to farmers. Communities don't want these digesters. I'm working with a community in Washtenaw County, Freedom Township, who is citing, is very, very vehemently opposed to a Vanguard co-digester. All right, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about this. There's another side to the story. Thank you.
Thank you. And to close it out, I'm going to ask Scott from the Corn Growers to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee. I'll be brief. Scott Piggott with the Michigan Corn Growers Association. Michigan Corn Growers support these bills. Support them for a variety of reasons. First of all, we support renewable energy sources. We support the understanding that there are environmental benefits that result from these renewable energy sources. A lot of our corn growers support the livestock industry. 60% of our product eventually goes to the livestock industry. It's very important to the corn growers of our state. In addition to that, one of the things to the chairpersons, to the sponsors of the legislation, and to the work group that came together for a long period of time to work through these discussions to get to this point, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to talk with each other, to work through something. I worked on environmental issues for well over 20 years, sat on several Right to Farm GAMP committees for over a decade, sat with some of the best researchers in the world, developing science-based standards to help our farmers to meet the needed science of the day. From my standpoint, I applaud your resiliency. I applaud your leadership. This conversation's happened for well over a decade. The opportunity to be able to utilize several significant waste streams, put them into a common space where you heard today you'll see a 70 to 80% reduction potentially in microbes, where you're going to see a 90 to 99% reduction in hydrogen sulfide. The opportunity to utilize a product on farms that's beneficial for farm products to reduce odors and to generate renewable energy is a wonderful opportunity for the state of Michigan, and it's been a long time coming. I'm grateful for those that took the time and that had the resilience, that had the wherewithal to continue to work on an issue that apparently had been an issue for a long time, and you're at the point where you can help to be part of that solution. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'll take any questions.
Not seeing any. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your testimony. Oh, wait, Scott. Vice Chair Warts.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for being here. Maybe you can just speak a minute. There was a statement about the definition of organic, and USDA has a standard for that. Can you speak on that, on what those standards are? Because I know we have raised organic poultry before, and it's very specific.
Sure. Organic standards, to the point that was made prior, organic means different things to different people. There are standards when you're raising different products to be able to have them certified as organic. In the cropping areas, it's limiting the use of herbicides. It's more mechanical tillage. And if a farmer can make more money as a result of spending more time and more labor in producing a product and can get a benefit, I'm all for it all day long. Organic means a lot of different things. Scientifically, I agree. Organic means it's got carbon in it. It's coming from the life cycle. The outcomes of the digestate process are inherently organic. It's coming, you're reducing something organic to something that's different and changed. To me, organic means something that comes from the life cycle, but they are rigorous standards depending on how they're defined.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
At this time, I'll read in the cards. Right, I get my eyes on. Jan O'Connell, not wishing to speak, in opposition. Jan Straight, I believe, not wishing to speak, in opposition. Amber Kirkpatrick, Sierra Club, not wishing to speak, in opposition. Donald Muskie, not wishing to speak, in opposition. John Concilio, sorry if I mangled that, not wishing to speak, in opposition. Mary Rutlu, I'm sorry, can't read it, not wishing to speak, in opposition. Sorry about that. Jan O'Neill, not wishing to speak, in opposition. Charles Carpenter, not wishing to speak, in opposition. Melissa Demency, not wishing to speak, in opposition. Katie Morris, not wishing to speak, in opposition. Pete and Becky from Greenstone, not wishing to speak, in support. Matt Breslin, not wishing to speak, in support. With that, not seeing any other business before the committee, Representative Pavlo wishes to excuse all absent members. Hearing no opposition, motion prevails, and with that, we'll conclude today's committee. Thank you.